Good evening and welcome to Football First. As always, we welcome Marco Vendetti. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Buonasera. Very good to be here again.
I always have to laugh because I am still failing very much in Italian.
He's learning.
Tonight, however, we do have a very special guest on the program, and that is the PNG men's national coach, Flemming Serritslev. Flemming, good evening to you. Welcome to Football First.
Thank you very much for being here.
Now, tonight, of course, the three of us will be discussing perhaps the biggest thing that happened this weekend and in the Telikom National Soccer League, which was the victory by Hekari over Ley City Dwellers.
Ley City Dwellers. What a game that was, Jeremy. I thought it was fantastic. It was beautiful to be at the stadium, and there was a great atmosphere. There were so many fans that came over. It was great to see that. It was strong game, physically, tactical, technically. Unfortunately, there was only one team that came out as the dominator of the game, but we're looking forward for the second leg. That will be interesting.
Well, the other results that also came about on the same weekend was between the match between Wilgris Morbe United and PK Rapatona, and that ended with a 2-1 victory for Wilgris, which sees them go into third place, although it'll probably not make any difference. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from this weekend's final round of the Telikom National Soccer League. Tommy Sammy free on the left-hand side. Tommy Sammy might take a shot. Steps in again. Tommy Sammy! Awama driving forward to the Zamatanito in space. Might take it first time. Lays it across. Koraku Paiga, wonderful turn. We're Awama's there with him. Koraku Paiga. Triples the lead. Koraku Paiga. Tommy Sammy might take a shot. Might be another goal for Hekari. Fantastic result there by Hekari over Ley City Dwellers. Now, Flemming, you were over in Ley a week before.
Yeah, I was, and it was a totally different match. I mean, in this match, at least in the first 75 minutes, Ley City Dwellers were totally dominating and had actually chances also to win the game. It was only the last 15 minutes actually Hekari came back and had, especially in the dying minutes, a couple of chances. But otherwise, Ley City Dwellers were the dominating team.
So what made it different?
Well,
Marco?
that's what's beautiful about football, isn't it? It's unpredictable. You never know, and that's what's great about this sport. You have a team that dominates a week, not even a week before, back home, and then they come here to Port Moresby and they had absolutely not a chance, not even to score a single goal. So that's what makes it incredible. So inevitably you're thinking what's going to happen next. And I think earlier on we were talking before coming into the studio, and Coach was saying, watch out with the Ley City Dwellers, because they're going to be like a wounded animal. And a wounded animal, as we all know, unless, well, I'm not sure, I'm not a hunter, but you know what it means. It's like it's a very dangerous animal. You know, it still has a bite, it still has a kick. So that's what we want to see on Saturday, I hope.
And of course, Ley City Dwellers, they must be hit on their proudness. I mean, they really have to come back and show a totally different appearance on Saturday.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll just head off for a quick break, and coming up after that, I want to ask Coach Flemming and of course Marco, and we will be analyzing, breaking down the match between Ley City and Hekari. Stay with us. Daniel Joe, good win of the header. Tutizama Tanito touches it off for Tommy Sammy. Tommy Sammy might take a shot! Welcome back to Football First. Now we do have here the whiteboard, and Coach, it's been a massive debate as to the difference in style between, of course, Hekari, which are shown here in red, and Ley City Dwellers. Marco, your thoughts initially?
Well, initially what I saw at the beginning is that the LCD, the lay city dwellers, they wanted to play a counter-attack game, essentially. They came here to defend, essentially, and exploit, make the most of the opportunities that might have happened during the game. Unfortunately, plan didn't go as planned, and they conceded the first goals of the season. I think that had a psychological effect inevitably on the players. And I think as much, and the coach probably can confirm that, you can work as much as you can during the week on the position, the tactics and all of that. But if a player loses motivation psychologically, is not there, that's when the problems are going to happen.
Coach, was that because of the movement that Hekari had in the middle of the park?
Yeah, actually for me there was one big difference in the strategy of the two teams. No doubt that Hekari actually is playing a very well positional game, especially in midfield. They are able to keep the ball, to make the opponents run a lot of the ball and get tired. Whereas Lay City Dwellers, for me, more look to rely on individual qualities from Peter Guniemba and from Nigel Dabinyaba. And those two didn't succeed at all to get some opportunities to make counter-attacks.
Now, tactically, what could Lay City have done? Because they did concede as early as 17 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. For me, they maybe should have been more patient in their way of defending. As I told you, for me, Hekari actually made them run a lot, especially in midfield. And it happens then that the Lay City Dwellers players, they went into the middle to try to see if they could win the ball. And then space were created on the wingers, and we could see that
we had
actually a lot of opportunities.
A lot of movement coming up front, out wide for Hekari.
They actually used the spaces beside Lay's fullbacks very well. I think we saw 2 or 3 goals coming from
there. Yes,
almost from the goal line.
Yeah.
So they succeeded in bringing, in centering the Lay City Dwellers, and then create the space to open it either for Otto Kusenan, for
Daniel Joe and Otto Kusenan.
and Koryak Upaiga here, and here for the Solomon winger, or for Daniel Joe coming here, and they did that very well.
But also I would say that a game is made of circumstances and opportunities to score goals. And for once you had a team that was very, very cynical. All the chances that they had, they put in. And I think we have to probably stress the job that both Tommy Samidad and Upaiga did in the front, which was spectacular. Both of all goals coming from them are being excellent. And the execution, but also how they showed it to be very, very clinical in front of the goal.
With Tommy Sammy in the center, then of course you've got Koryak and Tutizama over here, Daniel Joe out wide. It did appear that Lay had their 2 strikers isolated.
Yeah, but you know, they actually never succeeded in making a fast transition, in making a fast counter-attack, because you know, the deciding moment in the game, it's where you either win the ball or lose the ball. And the teams who are very fast in transitions, they would either, if they lose the ball, they would be very fast in position again, or if they win the ball, they would try to play the first pass forward so that you can hurt your opponent immediately. When I'm saying playing the first pass forward, I mean, if you can do that,
yep, go ahead.
If you win the ball here, for example, he's here, he's coming up here, for example. If you win the ball and you immediately, for example, here could play Nigel Dabinyaba, for the first, you have passed 2 opponents. You are very close to the goal of the opponent, short distance, and very important, you could catch the opponent unbalanced. in defense.
Yeah, without the guard.
Yeah.
But that has been the game that the Lay City Dwellers played up to now. They were very fast transitions, from the defensive midfielder up to the attack. But this time, every time that they did play their move, they were always victim of the defense. And the midfield, as you said, they played a fantastic games because they never left that gap. The midfield was always moving up and down and never create that gap. So every time the ball will actually circulating here, you would have a defender closing by and a midfielder coming back right up. Always.
But
throughout the
one
game.
more thing, when Lay City Dwellers won the ball in midfield, they didn't play forward. They played to the side or they played backwards. And what does that mean? It meant that Hikari had always time to get behind the ball.
Because you have to admit that in terms of the domestic league, Hikari's defense has not been tested yet. But if in the Champions League, Oceania Champions League, they do play with these very two wide centre backs, and of course you've got your left and right. Is that dangerous, and can that be something that can be exploited by Lay coming up into the final this weekend?
Yeah, you can't say that. As we have been speaking about Lay City Dwellers, it must be like a wounded animal now. And two things can happen. Hikari can kill them, kill the wounded animal, but maybe the wounded animal will be really tough and be ready to say, they hit us on our professionalism, they hit us on our proudness. We really want to show that this was a mistake that we lost 5-0. And for the game, we must hope that the last point will be what Lay City Dwellers will show us on Saturday.
But Coach, what would you say that the first time worked when they played in Lay, even if it was a drawless, a scoreless draw? From what we understand, actually Lay had plenty of chances to score, to win to that game. So what happened? Why did they succeed there? Tactically, what happened?
There's one more thing to say about the Lay game, and it is there's a very big difference on the grass in the stadium of Lay and on the grass of the Vicini. The grass in Lay is longer. It's a special kind of grass. I mean, the ball is not rolling so fast, and actually, Hikari, they couldn't get their combination play running in Lay. That was actually also why I had in mind it might be difficult for Lay to come here, because they were able to keep the ball here in Port Moresby. They were not able to keep the ball when they played in Lay.
I see.
There was a big difference on the
surface.
surface.
The quality of the field actually.
No, but not. I can't say the quality, but the difference of the grass on the two pitches. It's a very big difference.
For your style of football, would you prefer this type of field?
I would absolutely prefer the grass that we had at Vicini, where the ball is rolling fast and you can have a fast game. It's more difficult, I would say, in Lay if you always would like to play on the grass. If you play the long passes, waiting for the counter-attack, it's even as good to play in Lay as it is here. But it's for a possessioning game style as Hikari has, it was difficult for them to play in Lay.
Coach Flemming, a final question in terms of this one here.
Yeah.
A few days from now, we are going to be having the grand final.
Yeah.
Predictions.
I think we will see a Lay team who would like to show that this was really a mistake what we made in Port Moresby last Saturday. We will really have our revenge now. If it'll be a victory for Lay, I can't say anything about this, but I'm sure we'll see a different team. Also because it was very strange that they conceded 5 goals. In this minor championship, they had conceded 0 goals before they came here to Port Moresby on Saturday. And actually, you cannot blame Ronald Weisan, because all goals, they were sitting in the corner or they were played totally free. He could do nothing about it.
So the goalkeeper had no responsibility at all.
And I will actually, I would like to mention one thing about Tommy Semi, a special detail that I think he did very well. In the first goal, where he's coming in from the left side, he's first making one kicking feint. And you know, the defender, he has to react, because if if he doesn't react
yeah.
and he shoots and there's a goal, he looks crazy. He takes one more draw with the ball. He makes another kicking feint. Again, of course, the defender reacts, and then third time, sit and it was a wonderful goal.
Yeah. During the game, I thought he reminded me of Del Piero. He used to do that very, very effectively. So, Coach, I have a question. I mean, for me, the dominating team was Kari, clearly, and I don't think there's going to be a chance on Saturday. Also, because I didn't see the game back in Leh. So for me, there was only a team last game. So my question is to you as a coach, when you do see that you have a team that is clearly dominating the championship, and then I can make references to other teams in Europe, you know, Barcelona for Spain and Juventus for Italy. So you can see that there is like a core of that team that is actually functioning very, very well. Yeah. Do you tend to bring that to the national team, or you tend to mix it up with other players if you know that that system is working and those group of players are playing such a good football?
Yeah, actually I would say that every coach has his own playing style philosophy. I also have my own playing style philosophy. At many of the moments in the Hikari game is actually the way of playing that I like very much. First of all, I like it to be a very fast game. As I have been saying, I like very much that when the moment when we win the ball, this transition has to be fast, so we can play the first pass forward, pass as many opponents as possible. And we know that in this country, I think we actually have rather many very exciting strikers who has good qualities. First of all, what I like, they are fast. And I would always adapt my style to fast players. And that's where I hope that we can do a difference.
So we should expect definitely a national team that will have a strong Hikari backbone, I would say, and then
as it looks now, of course, for example, if you see the midfield who are playing a very good possessioning game, but also can play fast forward, then of course it's an advantage that players knows each other. Even as well as it is an advantage that, for example, up front you can have Nigel Daninyaba and you can have Peter Kunyemba. I mean, they also know each other. So it'll always be a combination.
Flemming Serritslev, thank you very much for that wonderful insight. In fact, we'll just head off for a quick break. See you soon.
Paps in Bloomington, Karkar Island, and Mama's from Germany.
Welcome back to Football First. We have a very young player who's recently made it into the national team. In fact, he was announced for as part of the 23-man squad. Felix Komolong.
Yeah, he's actually a very interesting player as a central defender. And after being here now for 2 months and also was here in November, actually I could wish that that we were able to educate more central defenders. That it has been the case until now. But Felix Komolong is one of those players who, in my vision, has a very good future. Unfortunately, he had a bad start in Hikari because he was ill when he came from Madang, and actually he has only been playing for the last 2 games for Hikari, and it's easy to see that he has a lack of match training. But there's only one way to get that, it's to play matches. So it's good that he has had 2 matches now, and I've nominated him because I can see his potential.
I agree with you, but at the same time, it never gives you the sense that he loses his cool. It reminds me of Baresi or Maldini, that type of player that never, never loses that cool.
It's very good idols to have.
Well, speaking of cool, let's just take a look at Felix Komolong tonight on Football First.
Paps in Bloomington, Karkar Island, and my mom's from Germany. So Abkhaz, yeah.
He first represented PNG in the under-17 squad when he was 15 years of age. One he still remembers it as yesterday, and an experience that sets the pace for many more international honors for PNG.
Under 23s, Ricky Herbert. I learned so much. Ricky Herbert's one of the best coaches I've been coached by. We won the bronze as well, which was great. Good feeling to finally win something for the country. And yeah, that's as far as I've gone.
Coincidentally, the team won bronze medal against Fiji, where it took PNG almost 28 years to win a medal at this stage.
We had a really strong team. Coaches were good. Everything that tournament was on point. It's just, I don't know.
It was his first experience playing alongside his elder brother Alwyn, who captained the national team.
It's weird because we lived together, we grew up together, but it was a good experience, you know.
Outside of the pitch, he jokingly said Alwyn's big brother, then a captain.
No.
Does he come
Outside
home?
of film, big brats. Inside of film, captain.
Does he come home sometimes and say, hey, can you make me some coffee because I'm the captain of the national team?
You can try, but no.
Prior to the NSL season, Felix was studying in New Zealand when his former club, Medang FC, beat Hikari United and went on to the final only to be defeated by Lake City Dwellers. Felix now plays as a left defender for Hikari and probably one of the most talented defenders in the game at the moment, also recently named in the national team.
Important challenge by Felix Komolong out
That was
for
a good
corner.
effort.
Yeah, just work hard and focus, concentration, not school good. You school good, but you got to play.
Okazaki. Oh, it'll go for Varney! He scored again!
Welcome back to Football First. Switching away from the local matches here, UEFA Champions League. Real Madrid beat Marco's hometown, Roma, by 2-0. 2-0, Marco.
Yeah, which
2-0.
makes it 4 in aggregate. Well, actually, I'm going to swap it, and I'm going to put it on the coach, because I think after that game, there was an interesting debate in Italy and in Rome as well, with something like that. If you see that your team, in a way, is content, even having lost the game, you make them feel good about it, or you go like, no, guys, this is the wrong attitude?
No, but listen, it's always a question when you feel you play very well, but you lose. But at the end of the day, it's a matter of qualities for the players, because Real Madrid, they have got players who are able to score when they get a chance. They are not using 3 or 5 chances to score 1 goal.
You give one chance,
then there's a goal. And for me, that's very often the difference. The teams who has goal scorers, players who just need 1 or 2 chances to score a goal, they win. 5 or 7 chances in an international top-level match, you will be very lucky if you have so many chances. But if you can't score them,
that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Speaking of chances, and moving on away from Roma, Real Madrid, PSG, Chelsea, Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Yeah. He's an outstanding Scandinavian player. I would like to say Scandinavian because then he more or less belongs also to Norway and Denmark. But he's actually a Swede, and he is an exceptional player. He alone actually killed Denmark in the playoff coming to the European Championships this year. He's so outstanding. Yeah, I mean, he's in class very close to Ronaldo, to Messi, to Neymar.
Important question I'd like to ask you. If one team dominates a league, is it good for that particular competition, for that to happen?
For me, it's not good. Actually, because the team will have far too many easy matches, and it's totally correct as you're mentioning. At the moment in France, it's PSG, Monaco would like to challenge them, but have not been able at all to do it this season. But actually, you can also go to Spain. You will have Barcelona, you will have Real Madrid, you will have Atletico, and then it's more or less finished. 2-3 years ago, Valencia could be there, Sevilla could be there, but it's finished. In Holland, you have Ajax, PSV, Feyenoord, and the rest they are.
And
I would say normal
and of
teams.
course in the Bundesliga, we all know who's up on top.
Yeah, but they are Bayern Munich is also challenged a bit by Borussia Dortmund, who is on its way back. But those competitions in Europe, they are very different compared to, for example, the English Premier League. In the English Premier League, yeah, we have Chelsea, we have Arsenal, we have normally Manchester United, we have Manchester City. But suddenly, a team pops up. I mean,
the Cinderella.
popping up. And in the Premier League, actually, you can not be totally sure that the bigger teams will win every time. We have seen United losing a lot of time. We have seen City recently also losing opponents that they actually should be able to beat. But it's very tough, and there are much more tougher games in the Premier League than in all other leagues in Europe.
Probably, perhaps even the style of football, in the sense that the English Premier League is known for having a bit weaker defenses as opposed to Italian, that is very close, very difficult, you know, to break through. So you could have teams that at the end, Leicester doesn't have that sort of transfer market that you can compare with other teams that have a much smaller budget, but you know, that have that passion. And in English football, that because it's not so tactical, I think you can do it. You can have like a team that maybe is not so strong actually make it to the end.
What Leicester have been doing, it's incredible. You know, it's 11 players, no matter who they have on the pitch, but it's 11 players who really, individually, fight for the team. You know, they never give up. I mean, they have really shown how much it means to be a team and not relying on just a few players. I know they have two very strong players up front in Martis and the centre forward. What is his name? You know. You know what I mean. They have been doing very well, but it's the team that has created the results for Leicester City this year.
How important would you say is the role of the coach when you have to form a team like that?
Of course, it's important, because it's the coach who has to find a team that is balanced. He also has to find a team that will fight for the shirt. I mean, if it's about the national team, you will only have to choose players that you know really will fight for your country.
Fight till the end.
Yeah.
And speaking of the end, we have come to the end of Football First. I'd like to thank our guest, Flemming Serritslev. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much for being here. It's a pleasure.
And of course, Marco Vendetti, looking forward to the weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Jeremy. It's been a pleasure as always.
And from us over here in Football First, good night to wherever you are. Thank you. Cheese and wine again. Cheese and wine again.